unlimited drama series.
I came home early that Friday, expecting to find Kara curled up on the couch with her usual glass of wine and whatever reality show was poisoning her brain that week. Instead, I found her in our bedroom, sliding into a dress that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. The black fabric was so sheer, it might as well have been cellophane, and underneath, nothing, not a damn thing. "What's the occasion?" I asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Victoria's Secret convention?" She turned to face me, that familiar smirk playing across her lips, the one that used to make my heart race but now just made my stomach turn. "What if I told you I'm meeting 2 of my exes tonight?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. 2 exes, not 1. 2. Because apparently, regular cheating wasn't enough for Kara Harper. She had to go for the gold medal in adultery. "What would you do if I said you're not?" I replied, pulling out my phone. Her laugh was sharp, cruel. "You? Stop me? Nick, honey, we both know you don't have the balls." That's where she was wrong, dead wrong. I dialed the number I'd memorized 3 weeks ago when I first started tracking her movements. The Ritz Hotel answered on the second ring. "Yes, I need to cancel a reservation," I said, putting the call on speaker. "Room 447, under the name Sarah Mitchell." Kara's face went white. Sarah Mitchell was her old college roommate's name, the alias she'd been using for her little adventures. "Certainly, sir. The reservation for tonight has been canceled. Will there be anything else?" "Actually, yes. Could you please confirm that the other parties have been notified? Mr. Ethan Brooks and Mr. Derek Lynn? Their wives called earlier with some concerns." The silence in our bedroom was deafening. Kara's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. "I'm sorry, sir, but I can't discuss other guests' information. However, I can confirm that both gentlemen have canceled their reservations as well." I hung up and reached into my jacket pocket, pulling out a manila envelope I'd been carrying for 2 days, waiting for exactly this moment. "Divorce papers," I said, handing it to her, "along with printed copies of every text message you've sent in the last 6 months, screenshots of your dating app conversations, and my personal favorite, a recording of you telling Megan exactly how stupid you think I am." Her phone started buzzing. Then it started ringing. Then it started going absolutely insane, with calls and texts. "That would be Becca Brooks and Linda Lynn," I said. "Ethan and Derek's wives. Lovely women, really. Becca's a divorce attorney, which is convenient. Linda runs a PR firm, which is less convenient for you." Kara grabbed her phone, her hands shaking. The screen was lighting up like a Christmas tree. "You bastard," she whispered. "Oh, I'm just getting started," I said. "You wanted to play games? Congratulations. You're about to find out what happens when you play with someone who's actually good at them." I walked toward the door, then turned back. "Change clothes. You look desperate." I paused. "Oh, wait, you are." 3 weeks earlier, I'd started noticing the signs. Late nights at the office that didn't show up on her company's parking garage security footage. Yeah, I checked. Phone calls that ended abruptly when I walked into the room. New lingerie that never made an appearance in our bedroom. But the real kicker was Megan Carter, Kara's best friend and partner in crime. Megan had always disliked me, but lately, she'd been downright hostile. Every conversation felt like an interrogation, every question designed to figure out my schedule. "Nick's working late again tonight," I'd heard Kara tell her over the phone. "He won't be home until after midnight." Except I'd been standing in the kitchen, having come home 2 hours early. That's when I decided to do some investigating of my own. Anita Parsons had been a cop for 23 years, before opening her private investigation business. She was tough, smart, and had zero patience for cheating spouses. "Your wife's not as clever as she thinks," Anita told me, over coffee at Murphy's Diner, sliding a folder across the table. "Hotel reservations under fake names, credit cards you don't know about, and she's been meeting with 2 different men. Sometimes separately, sometimes together." The photos made my stomach turn. Kara with Ethan Brooks, the real estate hotshot with the perfect hair and the perfect smile. Kara with Derek Lynn, the tech entrepreneur who drove a Tesla and wore $1,000 suits. And then, the one that really got me, all 3 of them together, walking into the Ritz like they owned the place. "They've been planning this for months," Anita continued. "Your wife, her friend Megan, and these 2 idiots. They think they're running some kind of sophisticated operation. What about their wives? Becca Brooks is already suspicious. She hired me 6 months ago to follow Ethan. but I had to drop the case when she couldn't pay my fees. Linda Lynn? She's been tracking Derek's credit cards. She just doesn't know about the secret accounts yet. I closed the folder and looked out the window at the town square, where families were setting up for the weekend farmers market. Normal people living normal lives, not dealing with wives who thought cheating was a team sport. I want to hire you for one more job, I said. What kind of job? The kind that makes sure everyone gets exactly what they deserve. Back at my construction site, I met with my foreman, Rick Soto. Rick was 28, sharp as a tack, and had grown up in neighborhoods where you learned early how to handle people who thought they were better than you. Boss, you sure about this? He asked, looking at the photos Anita had given me. This is some serious Jerry Springer stuff. I'm sure, but I need to do this right. No violence, nothing illegal, just creative problem solving. Rick grinned. I know a guy who works at the phone company, and my cousin runs the towing service downtown. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. That night, while Kara was at her book club, which was actually drinks with Megan to plan her next rendezvous, I got to work. First, I installed tracking software on her car. Then I called our credit card companies and reported her cards as potentially compromised, freezing the accounts. Finally, I changed all the passwords on our shared accounts and removed her access to our joint savings. When she came home at midnight, slightly drunk and reeking of another man's cologne, I was waiting in the living room. How was book club? I asked. Fine, she said, not meeting my eyes. We discussed that new thriller everyone's talking about. The one about the cheating wife who gets caught? She froze halfway up the stairs. What? Nothing. Just wondering if you'd recommend it. The next morning, Mrs. Doyle called. Our 78-year-old neighbor had eyes like a hawk and a memory like a steel trap. Nick, dear, I saw the strangest thing yesterday. That Megan girl was at the Ritz, talking to the concierge about room service. She had a list with her. Looked like she was planning quite the party. Thanks, Mrs. Doyle. I appreciate you looking out for us. Oh, and Nick? That husband of hers doesn't know she's been spending their mortgage money on hotel rooms. Might want to keep that in mind. I hung up the phone and smiled. In a small town like ours, information was currency, and I was about to become very, very rich. The annual Harvest Festival was the social event of the year in our little town. Everyone came out. Families, couples, teenagers looking for trouble, and apparently, cheating wives trying to play the victim card. I spotted Kara near the apple cider stand, surrounded by a group of women I recognized from her yoga class. She was wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky and speaking in the kind of hushed, dramatic tones that screamed, "Pay attention to me." I just don't understand how someone you love can be so cruel, she was saying. Nick has completely lost his mind. He's frozen our accounts, canceled my credit cards, and he's telling people the most horrible lies about me. Megan stood beside her, nodding sympathetically, while shooting daggers at anyone who looked skeptical. Men can't handle it when women become independent, she added. Nick's always been controlling. I walked up to the group with a smile that could have powered the whole festival. Ladies, I said, tipping my baseball cap. Beautiful day for the festival, isn't it? The women shifted uncomfortably. Small towns are funny. Everyone knows everyone else's business, but nobody wants to be caught in the middle of a domestic dispute. Nick, Kara said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I didn't expect to see you here. Wouldn't miss it. I love community events, all these people, all these conversations. Amazing how fast news travels in a town like this. I pulled out my phone and held it up so the screen was visible to the group. For instance, did you know that the Ritz Hotel keeps records of all their reservations? Including the ones made under fake names? And did you know that when you cancel a reservation at the last minute because someone's wife finds out, they charge a penalty fee? Kara's face went pale under her sunglasses. But here's the really interesting part, I continued, scrolling through my phone. When you make reservations for 3 people, but Only put down 2 names. The hotel gets suspicious, especially when those 2 names belong to married men whose wives have been asking questions. One of the yoga women gasped. Another pulled out her own phone, probably texting her husband about the drama unfolding at the apple cider stand. "Nick, please," Kara whispered, "not here." "Oh, but here is perfect," I said. "All our friends and neighbors, the people who've watched us build our life together. Don't they deserve to know what kind of person you really are?" That's when Ethan Brooks appeared, strutting over like he owned the place. He was wearing a designer polo shirt and khakis that probably cost more than most people made in a week. His perfect hair was perfectly styled, and his perfect smile was perfectly fake. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, putting his hand on Kara's shoulder. The yoga women's eyes went wide. This was better than cable television. "No problem at all," I said. "Just catching up with my wife and her friend." Ethan puffed out his chest. "Maybe you should back off, buddy. You're making everyone uncomfortable." "Am I? I'm so sorry. Here, let me get out of everyone's way." I took a step backward, right into the festival volunteer, carrying a tray of chili samples. The tray went flying, and every single cup of hot, chunky, bean-filled chili landed squarely on Ethan's perfect polo shirt. "Oh my God," I said, grabbing napkins from the nearest table. "I'm so sorry. Here, let me help you clean that up." I started rubbing the napkins into the chili, grinding it deeper into the fabric. Ethan tried to push me away, but I kept apologizing and helping until his shirt was completely ruined. "You did that on purpose," he snarled. "Did what? Had an accident?" "Sir, I'm terribly sorry about your shirt. Maybe next time you should be more careful about where you stand." The crowd that had gathered was trying not to laugh. Even Kara looked mortified. "This isn't over," Ethan said, storming off toward the parking lot. "I certainly hope not," I called after him. I'd hate for things to get boring. That night, Rick and I paid a visit to Ethan's apartment complex. It was one of those fake luxury places with a fancy name and cheap construction. All show, no substance. Kind of like Ethan himself. His BMW was parked in space 47, gleaming under the parking lot lights like a beacon of douchebaggery. "You sure about this, boss?" Rick asked, pulling supplies out of his truck. "Positive. Just remember, nothing permanent, nothing that can't be cleaned off." We started with saran wrap. Lots and lots of saran wrap, wound around the car so many times it looked like a giant clear cocoon. Then came the soap, Homewrecker, written across the windshield in big, bold letters. Finally, the pièce de résistance, biodegradable glitter mixed with shrimp from the bait shop, poured through the slightly open sunroof. Derek's Tesla was parked 3 spaces over, charging at the complex's fancy electric vehicle station. Rick had brought wire cutters. "This feels almost too easy," he said, snipping the charging cable. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones." We were finishing up when both men came out of the building, probably returning from whatever sad attempt they'd made to salvage their evening. The looks on their faces when they saw their cars were absolutely priceless. "What the hell?" Ethan screamed, running toward his BMW. Derek just stood there, staring at his severed charging cable like it was a dead pet. I stepped out from behind a van, holding up my phone to record their reactions. "Evening, gentlemen. Beautiful night, isn't it?" "You son of a bitch," Ethan yelled, trying to pull saran wrap off his car. "I'm calling the police." "For what? Vandalism? I don't see any permanent damage. Just some harmless pranks. Boys will be boys, right?" Derek finally found his voice. "You're insane." "No, I'm thorough. There's a difference." By now, other residents had come out to see what the commotion was about. Some were taking pictures. Others were laughing. All of them were getting a show they'd never forget. "This is harassment," Ethan said, his voice cracking slightly. "This is justice," I replied. "But don't worry, we're just getting started." Monday morning brought a phone call that made my week. "Mr. Harper, this is Janet Morrison from Kara's office. I'm calling to inform you that your wife has been placed on administrative leave pending an investigation into her conduct." "What kind of conduct?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, but we received some concerning information about her personal activities and how they might reflect on the company." I hung up the phone and poured myself a cup of coffee. Anonymous tips were wonderful things, especially when they came with photographic evidence and detailed timelines. Kara came downstairs 20 minutes later, her phone pressed to her ear and her face red with anger. "I don't care what they said. This is discrimination," she was yelling. "You can't put someone on leave just because their marriage is having problems." She saw me watching and lowered her voice, but I could still hear every word. "No, I understand the company's position, but what do you mean, moral turpitude? That's not even a real legal term." Actually, it was a real legal term, and it was exactly the kind of thing that could get someone fired from a corporate HR position, especially someone whose job involved maintaining professional standards and
He just gave me a massage, that's it!
A massage? With I miss your body after?
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
company reputation. After she hung up, Kara turned to me with fury in her eyes. "You did this." "Did what?" "Don't play dumb, Nick. Someone sent my boss photos and emails and God knows what else." "That's terrible. Who would do such a thing?" "You know exactly who." I shrugged and took another sip of coffee. "Maybe it was Derek's wife. Linda runs a PR firm. She'd know exactly how to destroy someone's professional reputation. Or maybe it was Becca Brooks. She's a divorce attorney. She'd know which details would matter most to an HR department." Kara's phone started ringing again. She looked at the screen and her face went even paler. "Or maybe," I continued, "it was just karma finally catching up with you." That evening, I was working late at the construction site when I heard a car pull up. Through the office window, I saw Ethan getting out of his BMW, which still had traces of glitter in the paint, despite what must have been multiple trips to the car wash. I called Rick. "He's here," I said quietly. "On my way, boss. Keep him talking." I walked outside to meet Ethan, who was trying to look intimidating, but mostly just looked like an angry real estate agent. "We need to talk," he said. "Sure. What about?" "You know what about. This has gone far enough." "Has it?" "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like we're just getting started." Ethan stepped closer, trying to use his height advantage to intimidate me. He was about 3 inches taller and probably 20 pounds lighter. All show, no substance. "I want you to back off. Leave Kara alone, leave me alone, and we'll call this whole thing even." "Even," I laughed. "You think we're even? You've been screwing my wife for 6 months, and you think a little car wash makes us even? That's between you and Kara. No, that's between me and everyone who thought they could make a fool out of Nick Harper." Rick's truck pulled up behind Ethan's BMW, blocking his exit. Rick got out, carrying a crowbar, not to use it, just to make a point. "Problem, boss?" Rick asked. Ethan looked back and forth between us, and I could see the exact moment he realized he'd made a mistake coming here. "No problem," I said. "Mr. Brooks was just leaving." "Actually, I think Mr. Brooks wants to see the rest of the site first," Rick said, walking closer. "We've got some real interesting equipment here. Cement mixers, bulldozers, all kinds of heavy machinery." I grabbed the door to the construction trailer and slammed it shut, inches from Ethan's face. The sound echoed across the site like a gunshot. "Here's the thing, Ethan," I said, stepping close enough that he could smell the sawdust on my clothes. "You came to my place of business. You threatened me. In front of a witness. I didn't threaten anyone." "Rick, did you hear Mr. Brooks threaten me?" "Sure did, boss. Something about making things even. Sounded pretty threatening to me." I pressed my hand against Ethan's chest, not hard enough to hurt him, but hard enough to pin him against the trailer wall. "You want to know what a real threat sounds like? If you ever come near my house, my business, or my life again, the next thing you'll lose won't be your dignity." I paused. "Oh, wait. Too late for that." Rick walked over and held out his hand. "Phone." "What?" "Your phone. Hand it over." Ethan reluctantly pulled out his iPhone. Rick walked over to the cement mixer and dropped it in. "Oops," Rick said, the butterfingers. "You can't do that." "Do what?" "Have an accident? Happens all the time on construction sites." "Very dangerous places, construction sites." I stepped back and gestured toward Rick's truck. "You're free to go. Rick will move his truck so you can leave. But Ethan, next time you want to have a conversation with me, maybe try calling first." "Oh, wait, you can't." After Ethan left, tires squealing as he peeled out of the parking lot, Rick and I sat on the tailgate of his truck and shared a beer. "Think he'll be back?" Rick asked. No, guys like Ethan are all bluster. They fold the minute someone stands up to them. What about Derek? Derek's smarter. He'll try a different approach. I was right. The next morning, I found Derek waiting by my truck when I came out of the hardware store. Unlike Ethan, he didn't try to intimidate me. Instead, he looked tired, defeated. My wife knows, he said. I figured she would eventually. She's filing for divorce, taking the kids, the house, half the business. That's what happens when you cheat on divorce attorneys. Derek laughed bitterly. You know what the funny thing is? I didn't even want to do this. It was Kara's idea. She said it would be fun, exciting, a way to spice up our boring suburban lives. And you believed her? I believed I deserved something better than what I had. Turns out what I had was pretty damn good. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that some of us are capable of learning from our mistakes. I'm not going to fight you, Nick. I'm not going to cause any more trouble. I just want to salvage what's left of my life. Fair enough. Derek started to walk away, then turned back. For what it's worth, Kara played all of us. You, me, Ethan, even Megan. She's not the victim here, no matter what she's telling people. I know. Do you? Because the way she tells it, you're the bad guy. The controlling husband who couldn't handle his wife's independence. Let her tell whatever story she wants. The truth has a way of coming out. That afternoon, I got a call from Mrs. Doyle. Nick, dear, you might want to know that Kara's been going around the neighborhood telling people you've been abusing her. My blood went cold. False abuse allegations were serious business. The kind of thing that could destroy a man's life even if they were completely untrue. What exactly has she been saying? Oh, the usual nonsense. That you've been controlling her money, isolating her from her friends, threatening her. Mrs. Peterson from down the street actually asked me if she should call the police. What did you tell her? I told her that I've been watching you two for 8 years, and the only thing you've ever been guilty of is being too good to that woman. But Nick, you need to be careful. People are starting to talk. That evening, I called Anita. We need to accelerate the timeline, I told her. Kara's getting desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. How desperate are we talking? False abuse allegations, desperate. Shit. Okay, give me 24 hours. I'll have everything ready. Everything? Everything. The photos, the recordings, the financial records, the hotel receipts. Plus a few surprises I've been saving for the right moment. What kind of surprises? The kind that makes sure nobody ever believes another word that comes out of your wife's mouth. The text message I sent was simple. Kara's personal effects ready for pickup. Motel 6 on Route 9, room 23. 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone, no lawyers. I sent identical messages to Ethan, Derek, and Megan. Then I sent a different message to Becca Brooks and Linda Lynn. Want to see what your husbands have really been up to? Motel 6, Route 9, room 23. 8 p.m. Bring cameras. Finally, I sent one more message to about 15 people from Murphy's Bar, Mrs. Doyle, and several other key members of our town's informal gossip network. Something interesting happening at Motel 6 tonight. Room 23, 8 p.m. You didn't hear it from me? By 7:45, Rick and I were positioned in the parking lot with a clear view of room 23. Anita was inside the room, setting up cameras and recording equipment. This feels like overkill, Rick said. There's no such thing as overkill when you're dealing with people who think they're smarter than everyone else. Kara arrived first, driving Megan's car since hers had been repossessed that morning. She looked nervous, constantly checking her phone and glancing around the parking lot. Megan showed up 5 minutes later in an Uber, probably because her husband had finally figured out where their mortgage money had been going. Ethan and Derek arrived within seconds of each other, which was awkward since they'd been trying to keep their involvement with Kara secret from each other. Then came the real show. Becca Brooks pulled up in her Mercedes, followed immediately by Linda Lynn in her Lexus. Both women got out of their cars like they were walking into battle, which, in a way, they were. Finally, the cavalry arrived. Mrs. Doyle in her ancient Buick, Big Mike from Murphy's Bar in his pickup truck, and about a dozen other people who'd gotten my message and decided they couldn't miss whatever was about to happen. Showtime, I said. Rick and I walked across the parking lot and knocked on the door of room 23. Kara opened it, expecting to see just me. Instead, she saw me, Rick, Anita, and about 20 other people crowding behind us. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. "This," I said, "is what happens when you play games with the wrong person." I pushed the door open wider, revealing the room's other occupants. Ethan and Derek were standing by the window, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Megan was sitting on the bed, her face pale and her hands shaking. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced to the crowd, "I'd like you to meet my wife's co-conspirators. Ethan Brooks, real estate agent and devoted family man. Derek Lynn, tech entrepreneur and pillar of the community. And Megan Carter, loyal friend and moral support." Becca Brooks pushed through the crowd, her phone already recording. "Hello, darling," she said to Ethan. "Fancy meeting you here." Linda Lynn was right behind her. "Derek, sweetheart, I thought you were at a business dinner." The crowd pressed closer, everyone trying to get a better view. Phones came out, cameras started flashing, and suddenly Room 23 at the Motel 6 became the most documented location in town. "This is harassment," Megan shouted. "You can't just ambush people like this." "Actually, we can," Anita said, stepping forward, "especially when those people have been planning to file false police reports." She held up a small recording device. "This is from 3 days ago, recorded at Starbucks on Main Street. Would you like me to play it for everyone?" Megan's face went white. "I didn't think so. But just in case anyone's curious, it's a lovely conversation between Megan and Kara about how they're going to claim Nick has been physically and emotionally abusing Kara. Very detailed, very specific, very illegal," the crowd murmured. False abuse allegations were serious business in a small town, the kind of thing that could destroy not just a man's reputation, but his entire life. "That's not what we said," Kara protested. "Isn't it? Rick, would you like to hear what they said about you?" Rick stepped forward, his face hard. "Me? Oh, yes. Apparently, you were going to be Nick's accomplice in all this abuse. Something about how construction workers are all violent thugs who can't be trusted." The crowd's mood shifted. These were working-class people, many of whom knew Rick personally. The idea that some suburban princess thought she could frame him for domestic violence didn't sit well with anyone. "Play the recording," Big Mike called out. Anita pressed play. Kara's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "We need to make it believable. Nick's too smart to leave bruises, so we'll say it was psychological abuse, isolation, financial control, threats, and that Rick guy who works for him. He looks scary enough. We'll say Nick threatened to have him hurt me if I ever left." Megan's voice joined in. "What about the hotel thing? People are going to ask why you were there. We'll say Nick forced me to go, that he was pimping me out to pay off gambling debts or something. Make him look like a monster." The recording continued for another 2 minutes, with both women laughing about how easy it would be to destroy my life and Rick's career. When it ended, the silence in the room was deafening. "You lying bitch!" someone called out from the crowd. "This is entrapment," Ethan said, trying to regain some control of the situation. "No," Becca said, "this is evidence. Evidence that my husband has been cheating on me with a sociopath who is planning to frame an innocent man for domestic violence." She turned to the crowd. "I want everyone here to know that I'm filing for divorce tomorrow morning, and I'm going to make sure that every detail of Ethan's affair becomes part of the public record." Linda Lynn nodded. "Same here. Derek's going to discover that cheating on a PR executive was the worst mistake of his life." "Now wait a minute," Derek started to say. "No, you wait," Linda snapped. "You wait until my lawyers contact your lawyers. You wait until I've finished destroying your reputation and your business. You wait until I'm done making sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of man you really are." The crowd was getting restless, phones buzzing with texts and social media posts. Within minutes, half the town would know what had happened in Room 23. "I think we're done here," I said. "We're not done," Kara said, her voice rising to a shriek. "You think you've won? You think this is over? I'll destroy you, Nick Harper. I'll make sure everyone knows what a controlling, abusive piece of shit you really are." "With what credibility?" Anita asked. "After tonight, who's going to believe anything you say?" Mrs. Doyle pushed through the crowd, her elderly face twisted with disgust. "Kara Harper, I've known you since you moved to this town, and I've never been more ashamed of anyone in my life. To think that you would try to destroy a good man like Nick and drag poor Rick into your lies. You should be ashamed of yourself." "I am ashamed," Kara said, tears streaming down her face. I'm ashamed that I wasted 8 years of my life married to a man who never appreciated me. Appreciated you? I laughed. Lady, I gave you everything. A home, a life, respect, love. And you threw it all away for what? A few thrills with some middle-aged losers? They made me feel special. They made you feel special? You want to know what's special? What's special is being able to look at yourself in the mirror every morning. What's special is having people respect you. What's special is not being a cautionary tale that parents tell their children. I looked around the room at the faces of our friends and neighbors, at the cameras and phones recording every word. You wanted excitement, Kara? Congratulations. You're about to become the most exciting thing that's happened in this town in years. The next evening, Murphy's bar was packed. Word had spread about the previous night's events, and everyone wanted to hear the details firsthand. I sat at my usual spot at